Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas and I'm thankful to you that you are with us. Thanksgiving Day is one day, but we feel a sense of thankfulness every day, every moment is one way to express our joy and gratefulness. But then the way you think and perceive the world also relates to the way you are taught how you should accept yourself and your relationship with the world. And that is what somewhere we refer to as family values. What is family, how family structure is important for an individual's growth, and how changes in the family values, or rather discarding some of the traditional family value sets in the name of becoming modern, is affecting us psychologically, culturally, socially, and how it is affecting our safety also. We'll talk about these issues with our panelists, and I take this opportunity of welcoming Maya Kulkarni Chadda ji. She is professor, has taught at William Patterson University, political science, a scholar with expertise on foreign relations. She has been acclaimed dancer, and she is also curating Nritya Darpan, which will happen on 10th December. We'll learn more about that down the line. And Gita ji also is artistically inclined, a singer and actor. Both of you, welcome.
Namaskar, Ashok ji.
I'll begin with you, Maya ji.
Okay.
Family, if you define what is it that we would say defines as family, and when we say family, is this word giving a different meaning in India as compared to America, or it is a universally acceptable definition of family?
I think that the definition of family is drastically changed, even within United States in the recent few decades. Recently, the Congress passed Marriage Respect Act, as you know, which accepts transgender. It's a same gender marriage. Now, traditionally, marriage, which is the center of a family, the whole family, the husband and wife, and then their relatives and their children. And if you're talking about a joint family, then it further on gets extended. All that is, dependent on this kind of traditional family at the center of it. That's no longer the case, at least in the United States. Now it is, the whole definition of family has changed. And India also, there is a drastic change in the family values. And family, how we define a family. The joint families are gone. It's no longer possible in urban areas and modern living to sustain a joint family. Second thing was family was a hierarchy, at least in the Indian sense. In the Indian context, it was a definitive hierarchy, and it was based on seniority. Whether it's on the father's side, who was the head of the household, and it was also patriarchal. In other words, the head of the family was usually the father, the grandfather, or a male figure. All of those things, hierarchy, patriarchy, and all that went with it, like deference to age and certain, customs and traditions that were inbred in the family, they're all changed now, that no longer the family we know.
Yeah. So, Maya, I'll come back to you, and I think you have given us a very good structure to sort of move forward in pursuit of understanding how family values are affecting us, or the changes in family values, so to say. You mentioned about patriarch family. That is, the father figure is the leader of the family, and so in lighter vein, or there is a Chinese proverb in Hindi, I read it long ago, which says that वो घर दुखी है जहाँ मुर्गी मुर्गे की अपेक्षा अधिक तेज आवाज में बांग देती है. So now that proverb is kind of out of place. If you subscribe to this, you will be considered as someone who is not moving with the rhythm of time. Talking about rhythm of time, Gita ji, and taking another extreme side of family where live-in relationship also became acceptable legally also in India. Now, how safety net, which when you are a part of any group and especially when you are a part of a family, whether it is a financial, emotional, psychological, overall, as far as law and order point of view is concerned. So, how do you see this live-in relationship works for an individual as far as his safe growth is concerned as compared to traditional family? Gita ji.
नमस्कार पहले तो अशोक जी, नमस्कार आप सब देखने वालों को. So I personally feel that in a progressive world, this kind of a situation will be there where पहले होता था कि लड़की माँ बाप के घर में होती थी, उसके लिए डिसीजन होता था माँ बाप का किसके साथ शादी, वहाँ जाती थी, वहाँ रहती थी. अब थोड़ा काम करने लगी हैं लड़कियाँ. Is it okay if I speak in Hindi?
Whatever.
तो अब थोड़ा माहौल बदला है, लड़कियां काम करने लगी हैं. जब काम करने लगी हैं तो डिसीजंस भी उनके ऑब्वियसली इंडिपेंडेंट होंगे. व्हाटएवर इज़ गुड फॉर अ बॉय इज़ गुड फॉर अ गर्ल, दैट्स हाउ आई फील. अगर वो काम कर रही हैं तो उनके डिसीजंस भी इंडिपेंडेंट इस बारे में होते हैं कि वो किसके साथ रहना चाहती हैं. And in the progressive society, when they're working, this change was bound to happen sooner or later, where they'll be making decisions for themselves as an adult. I mean, up till a certain age, yes, the parents should be guiding and would be telling. But there comes a stage when the girl has to take her own decision, and there's nothing wrong, I feel, in that. But having said that, you have to be ready for those things yourself. With freedom comes responsibility, which has to be taken into account. So family values अगर लेते हुए चलें आगे साथ में, तो हम जीवन में आगे निकल सकते हैं. Otherwise, we are.
So what Gita ji is saying, as per my understanding, Maya ji, and correct me if I am misunderstanding her, she is actually advocating for both sides. She says family values are good, that will help you in moving forward. But at the same time, she says that that should be individual decision to decide whichever way they want to proceed. And so we are not restricting it to girls or boys. But when you say live-in relationship, that Mayaji, to my mind, takes away the concept of family as we have understood it traditionally. Do you agree? And then having the stamp of Supreme Court accepting live-in relationship in India also, how that works on the overall fabric of society with respect to family values?
Well, now the trend is nuclear families, that are husband, wife, and their children. Villages, of course, village India is different. And I think it is all tied to property. It has all got to do with economics. And I totally agree with Gita that if a young woman comes out into the market and has a job and is earning her own living, she has that much freedom. She exercises a decision-making power in a number of spheres as she comes out into the job market. And if she's educated, and all of that is going to have a fundamental influence as we go forward as to how we define family, what are these family values. And I think Gita is quite right. I also agree there with her that it is good idea to sort of take some of the things that keep a family or relationship harmonious, which is what we have learned in the traditional family values, but we have to accommodate the reality, the modern reality of job and living and relationships. Space is a problem. In urban areas, there are small apartments. You can't have a joint family. You don't have the means to maintain a joint family. So people usually have a joint family, the members living in the village. It's kind of feet on both sides, and you'll earn here and you send some of the money back. But I'd like to really touch upon the point you raise, Ashok, is about safety net. I think that has become a very serious problem with the breakdown of the traditional joint family. Because I remember my father's generation, and we all do, there was the concept of taking care of all the elderly or even other relations, not immediate primary relationship, but even other aunts and, so on. And everybody was provided for, in a sense. They had a shelter, they had a roof, okay, they had a shelter. And I mean, not physical shelter, I mean the shelter of the family. That is also gone, I think, or going very rapidly.
So
And
here's the question. I think somewhere, because there is overlap in terms of understanding when two people start living together without getting married, and when people come together with support of their family and with the ritual that becomes a part of you. For if we look at it from Hindu tradition, then you enter into Grihastha ashram after you are formally married, or whichever tradition that you follow. So there is sanctity as far as your religious or dharmic tradition is concerned, which also comes psychologically or spiritually to give you a sort of a sense of togetherness. So that equation goes out when you just decide that, oh, this is the boy and this is the girl and we are going to live together. So I just want to come back to you on this, both of you. When we are talking about safety net, so there is a social surrounding that has witnessed you coming together as husband and wife. But in this case, you both decided, so being progressive can happen without losing family structure, or that is not possible. So compare the two situations. If it is a man and woman coming together as husband and wife, or they just come together as live-in partners, what difference as far as safety aspect is concerned, Mayaji?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, the contrast between families centered around marriage, a legal formal marriage, and those that are not. And I would suggest one more thing in that is that most of the situations that I know of people who live together and not necessarily get married begin to think about marriage when they want to have children. You see, they somehow still are concerned about the stigma of illegitimacy, and therefore, if they don't want to have children, then they may live together. So that's a different. This is true even here. I mean, I know a large number of young, I have lots of students who get married, they'll just live together. Marriage as an institution is no longer that necessary. But only becomes necessary when you think about having children. What happens to them? What's their identity? How do they go forward? How do you register them in school? See, what are the legal issues involved there? So all those things come up. So I think it's not just the man and woman deciding to come together, but family also means raising children and having a sense of perpetuity, that you perpetuate the family. When that happens, I think formal marriage becomes a kind of not a requirement, but a desirable thing for many people.
So Mayaji, what you said is the second step. When I say second step, meaning they have a child, and that is the extension of the sense of togetherness. But even staying to the previous situation where they are not parents yet, I was listening to the situation in India. Legally now, if these live-in partners have children, then that child will have right to property of the father. The women will have no right to the property of the partner. But Gita ji, leaving aside that concept of having a children and his responsibility and how he'll be raised, looking at the perpetual understanding, emotional bonding, sense of harmony, and if there are some differences, so as compared to live-in relation, do you think when they are formally married, they have more of sort of a protective shield or checks and balances to sustain some of the dips that they may come across, some lows in terms of their sense of understanding and togetherness? So from this point of view, how different it is in your opinion?
So I would say, starting from my time, which was a step before nowadays, in my time, yes, that was the case. That once you are married, you are more susceptible to understanding more, taking on the responsibility more. There were very clear definitions about what the lady is doing, what the man is doing. So we played our parts and diligently, and this is how we were brought up. That was the society. And we have progressed through that also. And I do see now my children's time, when the times are different, if both the partners are working, both of them want to live together, I personally, not that I'm advocating, but I'm not against it, to know each other better. Because even in the marriages, I know enough of my friends and others who don't have a very good marriage.
Yeah.
But they are together for the sake of marriage, because they were married, so they have to be together, which is not the case when you are living together. You are trying to understand the other person. You can only tell about the person when you start living together. That is the fact. You will not know the person unless you are living with them. That's how I feel, whether it's after marriage or before marriage. Once you are together, you know a little bit. And you can see the signals. If you find it not compatible or anything, you can at least get out of it. In marriage, then it's a whole thing.
So I
That's
think
how-
this is a very interesting space, Mayaji, and it is very, I would say, controversial space also, because the case that Gita ji is making, they will not know till they live together, and you will also agree that there are many cases where
I do.
husband and wife, let me finish. So these couple have lived together for 30 years, 40 years, and then they feel what Gita ji said, that she doesn't know me or he doesn't know me, and then they go separate ways. And we are talking in America, where the most well-known faces have gone separate ways, whether it is Bill Gates or the other rich guy. But so this is another ball game of understanding, and whether by living together you will be able to understand or not. And what I'll also bring to your attention, Maiji, and you might be also following some news. So in India, a recent case of one boy and girl living together. The girl now brutally murdered, and that case, Aftab and Chadda, everybody is aware that maybe 35 pieces, and so that's very, very horrifying. And I would say that this is not the reference point to understand live-in relation, and there would be beautiful couples also, and I would accept what Gita ji is saying. But when girl or boy say no, we are not listening to you, to their parents, that starts off from not a very vibrant, positive energy to move forward. But there again, you may say the parents should say yes, as Gita ji was mentioning. But so, as we are talking about family values and safety net, so I'll seek your input based on your observations, Maya ji. I mean, do you, if you are to weigh which is better, what would be your personal take?
I don't think you can. I agree with Gita that modern marriages, people should figure out whether they can live with each other instead of being trapped forever or a very long time with all the legalities involved in a very unhappy marriage where they're not compatible. I totally agree with you. And I wasn't really advocating any particular line. I was just making general observations about how things have changed. The case you mentioned, I haven't followed it very closely, but obviously there is a mixed marriage here, or marriage or whatever, they're living together. I think that it's you should not see it, yes, good or bad, but you should see it as a sliding graph. Okay, and each individual is situated on this graph based on how modern are their surroundings and the people around them, and what they are doing. And each one will find themselves at a different point on that graph, and they'll have to find the accommodation that is best for them. Maybe marriage is not the thing for them at the one side of the graph. The other side is the other way. So I think that itself, the dilution of the whole institution of marriage itself is the change we are talking about here. That was no longer the case. So Ashok, I would suggest that instead of seeing this is good and that's bad, I think that we really have to see as to people caught in certain circumstances or find themselves in certain circumstances of family, education, economics, where they're living, who their relatives are, what kind of accommodation can they find best. Now, I don't think that you can advocate one or the other. I'm not the one to say, no, everybody should get married legally. Or say, no, everybody should just live before they do. I think they have to figure it out themselves. It's an individual thing.
So that takes you away from the responsibility of taking any stand, I would say. And of course, nobody will listen to you if you say that this is the best. They will figure out their own way and they'll go. But what we are trying to understand and analyze is how it is likely to affect the individual as far as his possibility of growing in a wholesome manner is concerned. And while we are looking at the economic side of it or psychological side of it, there is a spiritual side also. And that overall, the family values as we understood in the traditional setup also included a sort of deeper commitment, which is not limited to physical or comforts of material comfort. So there was some deeper side to the commitment.
There's an emotional bond
Yes.
in a husband and wife, and it's hard to separate or sometimes to come together. It just depends on the situation that you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll bring back the Indian side and the way marriage. We used to have a very common line कि शादी दो आत्माओं का पवित्र बंधन है. Though this was a jingle where they were questioning दहेज के कलंक से इसे बर्बाद न कीजिए. But the first line was शादी दो आत्माओं का पवित्र बंधन. Now, first of all, whether you as an individual are accepting yourself as आत्मा somewhere और वो concept भी बचा रहे उसमें, अगर आप बुजुर्गों को सुनते हैं तो गीता जी, will that help you in understanding your identity in with additional dimensions जो कि एकदम.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I believe in that. Where the case is concerned, जहाँ आप श्रद्धा का भी केस की बात कर रहे हैं, yes, I would say there were few things which, when I followed the case, to me, it is a very clear case of violence first, mental sickness, which has to be addressed, which is always shoved under the carpet, especially in India, and which should come out. And then, yes, somewhere down the line, this modernization does not mean that माँ बाप पुराने हो गए. There's something to be said about the experience of the parents. So if I am telling my daughter something that I don't think this is correct for you, yes, she may be an adult. As a mother, I still have my responsibility as a mother to let her know and to guide her from my side. But at the same time, there comes a line where I have to stop and I have to consider her as an individual. And it is hardest thing for any parent to stand on the side and watch the kid go in the direction that they don't think is right for them. So that's where I do agree and understand where you are coming from about the value system and the safety net. Yes, the things can be saved if people around them are hurt, but then you have to have faith in that. If the kid wants to go independently and does the thing independently that I know better, I can only let them know how I feel and then take it from there. But yes, if the things I see red flags that starkly, I would go all out from my side to correct it whatever way I can.
Gita, you very well said, and Mayaji, we just have a few minutes to go. I just would like to conclude with both of you sharing your thoughts on a girl finding herself in a situation which is unenviable if she's at the receiving end, and so if there is bonding, there is mutual understanding and communication lines open with family members, do you think that helps in staying safe? But I will also say that the individual should somewhere figure out what is the right time to take that decision, which might be a little drastic. So your take, Mayaji, on or rather advice on a girl who finds herself at receiving end.
I don't have any advice really, but just some observations. I'll take that point about what you made the last point and just say a couple of things. I know of an example. You see, it's not just the immediate parents, but I think the family by larger, the society around them, the circles that people move in and live in. We don't live in isolation. And I know personally of example of two village women. I'm not going to elaborate on this very quickly, who were caught in a terrible marriage where they were being violent, husbands were being violent and beaten up. They were not particularly educated or anything. They were just village women. And this NGO went and helped them, their lawyers, get them divorced. Okay, the women are free, all right? Then what happens? Well, within a year, both commit suicide. Why? Because they didn't know where to live. They didn't know where to live. If they lived in their village, which was the only place they knew, they were continuously abused by the entire village. Okay?
So I'm afraid we'll have to sort of leave it at open-end space for now. But there are multiple questions, and what I feel we need to focus on the importance of family, because this is like an engendered species which needs attention. Because the way I heard from both these scholarly and insightful, artistically inclined Gita ji and Maya ji, I see that there is dilution in the family values, and the way we have given importance to family is also changing, and that is also termed as a way of being progressive. Whatever be the case, you cannot undo things that unfold in life, but we need to be cautious, conscious, careful, considerate as far as safety and growth of every individual is concerned. And I personally would say that we need to reconsider strengthening our family structure and give importance to family values. But again, you may see it differently. So once again, thank you, Mayaji and Gita ji, and thanks to all of you with lots of good wishes. Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay.